welcome to Paranormal Captivity. Today we're going to talk about Robert the doll. A couple named Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Otto built the Artist House in 1898. They were a well-off family who also had a son named Robert Eugene Otto who went by Gene. Despite the family's money and status, they were really cruel to their servants. One girl, who was, according to legend, very badly mistreated, also studied the arts of voodoo and decided to give a doll to their son Gene. This doll was about 3 foot tall, stuffed with straw, wearing a sailor outfit, and carrying a little stuffed lion. It was immediately the favorite toy of Gene, and he took that thing everywhere. He started calling his doll Robert, after his normal name. So Gene was always playing with Robert all the time. His parents would often hear him playing with his doll, and they would hear another voice talking back whenever he was talking to it. One night when Robert was 10 years old, he woke up paralyzed with fear, seeing Robert the doll standing at the foot of his bed. He woke up screaming, and his mom tried to rush into the room but found the door was locked, and all she could hear was a lot of banging around, rustling, giggling, and then occasionally those sounds were broken up by the sound of her own son screaming for help and for her to come help him. After hearing all of this and what sounded like furniture being overturned and all kinds of stuff, the mom eventually gets the door open, only to see Gene curled up in a little ball on his bed with Robert the doll sitting at the foot of the bed, and Gene pointing at the doll, whispering, "Robert did it." It wasn't just Gene that experienced weird things once Robert the doll was around. A lot of other people experienced seeing something dash out of the corner of their eye, hearing giggling, seeing a face peering out of the corner of windows. Eventually, as Gene grew up, Robert found residence in the attic. Once Gene's parents passed away, Gene inherited the home with his wife, Anne. He went upstairs when they were going through the items in the house, rediscovered Robert the doll, and instantly found that connection that he had with the doll in the past. Anne didn't like this. She was really creeped out by Robert the doll, didn't like it, thought that its face looked like it could change expressions on her. It really creeped her out. So after Gene had brought Robert out of the attic, she took him and put him back up there. Robert flew off the handle, like crazy anger ensued, and he decided, you know what? Not only is Robert coming out of the attic, he's getting his own room with a view of the street. It was weird. Eventually, over time, that phase passed and Robert took residence in the attic. After he was in the attic again, people who came to visit the house could hear pacing coming from the attic and giggling. And more than once, people would walk by the turret room or see it from the outside and say that they could hear taunts being called out from the turret room or see people peering out of the turret room in the corner of the window. Gene just always dismissed it, saying, well, Robert's in the attic, so I don't know what you think could be in there. But everybody was convinced somehow it was Robert the doll. Gene decided, I'm just gonna see what the heck is up in this turret room. He opens the door and Robert the doll is sitting in a rocking chair by the window of the turret room. So Gene takes Robert, puts him upstairs, puts him in the attic, shuts the door, and on his way back downstairs passes the turret room only to find Robert the doll sitting in the rocking chair by the window again. In 1972, Gene passed away, and Robert was left in the house. The next family that moved in had a 10-year-old daughter who found Robert the doll and took it on as her own. To this day, that girl, who is now a grown woman, swears that Robert the doll was alive, would try and torture her, and wanted to kill her. She's severely traumatized still by Robert the doll to this day. Today, Robert the doll lives in the Key West Martello Museum, and he's still producing phenomenon. Inside the museum, he'll lock and unlock doors, manipulate lights, he changes physical position. Some people who've worked there have heard tapping noises coming from the glass that surrounds him, and then when they turn around, they see that Robert the doll's hand is resting on the glass like he was just tapping on it. There was another instance of a worker discovering Robert in a different position whenever he was inspected, and he had fresh dust on the bottoms of his shoes like he'd been running around the museum when people weren't there. Visitors are welcome to go see him at the museum, and you're more than welcome to try and take a picture with him, but a lot of people have bad luck with this. It seems that if you try and take a picture around Robert the doll, your camera will just stop working, and sometimes it won't even work in the museum again until you're far away from the property. The Artist Museum is now a bed and breakfast, and it still has paranormal activity as well. Some claim that it's Robert the doll, others claim that it's Anne, Jean's wife, and that she's still protecting the house to make sure that Robert the doll doesn't come back. Once a month in October, Robert gets moved to a different display. He gets moved to the historic Custom House a few blocks down the road, and during that time his activity is supposed to be at its peak. People who are in charge of watching the doll tend to leave him little offerings of peppermints in his case while he's away, and all of the people who do this swear that there are less mints the next morning whenever they come and check on him. He's really freaking creepy, and I really want to visit him, so I will put in the drop-down box below all of the information about where he's located. If any of you are in the area and have seen him, I want to know about it. Or if you're going to go visit him, please tell me how it goes, because I would be thoroughly interested in finding out. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!